This episode of my journey in Enlisted will be a guide on the German starter tank, the Panzer II-C. I think I've played it enough now to get a general idea of how to play the tank. I know enough about its strengths and weaknesses. I think the weaknesses outweigh the strengths on this vehicle, and it will be a difficult learning experience when starting with tanks in the game. First off, the armour. Definitely a weakness of the Panzer II-C. Weak armour all around. Most enemy vehicles are not going to have problems shredding through it. On top of that, infantry can easily penetrate with an anti-tank rifle or TNT explosives. I'm more often taken out by enemy infantry than I am against tanks. The Panzer II-C is also vulnerable to aircraft as well. Mobility is very good, you can get around the map quickly. I use this to get into flanking positions and try to surprise the enemy. Onto the armament, you have a 20mm cannon and a 7.32mm MG34 machine gun. The 20mm has AP and HE shells. Use the AP shells to target enemy tanks, use the HE to target the infantry. I must mention another weakness: the reload and swapping of shell types is painfully slow and awkward, so bear this in mind. Another weakness: shells don't penetrate enemy tanks very well. You will struggle against T-60s of the Soviet Army, as well as M3 Stuart and M8 Scott tanks of the American Army. T-60s are strong at the front, although I have managed to take one out because the enemy player was bad and exposed the side of the tank. I aimed for the chassis, immobilised it and hit the ammo stowage with further shots. The M3 Stuart even struggled to hit the rear of this tank, had to go for the turret to knock out crew, as you'll see in the video clip I'm showing you. Vehicles like the British A-13 Cruiser and the Soviet T-26 you shouldn't have too much problem with. Use the machine gun a lot. Don't be afraid to spam the bullets by holding down the spacebar. I rack up more infantry kills with this than I do with the cannon firing the HE. The machine gun can also be used to target weak areas on tanks to take out crew such as the driver and the gunner. Also, keep some distance between the tank and the enemy infantry. If they get too close, you can't shoot them all. Your turret won't turn quick enough, and if they get close they can throw TNT explosives onto the tank, destroying it. Onto the Panzer II-C crew. You have 3 crew members: driver, loader and gunner. There are 2 positions in the tank when operating it. The driver's seat, which you'll only use when your gunner has been killed, but most of the time you'll be in the gunner's position. You can drive the tank along whilst operating as the gunner. You want to be in the gunner's position when engaging with the enemy. You can press the control key whilst in the gunner's position and he will peek out of the hatch. Use this when driving to map positions. It helps with driving and steering around obstacles to get to locations. It gives you much better situational awareness at times. You may have noticed in my last upload showing battles in the Panzer II-C that I wasn't doing this. It made it much more difficult on my approach into engagements. But don't be popping your head out of the hatch if you think enemy infantry will be around and you are engaging with the enemy. Onto the tactics, focus on flanking manoeuvres. I'm showing you an example of this video clip now. I didn't approach the capture point on the map from the front. Instead, I approached to the left on the outskirts of the point and then flanked around. I was initially hunting for infantry. This tank is mainly used for infantry support. I wouldn't normally target tanks. However, in this scenario, I ran into one, which you will do occasionally. It was an M3 Stuart. I wasn't sure what tank it was at the time. I managed to flank it, but you can see the struggles I have penetrating it. However, I targeted the turret and managed to knock out 3 crew members. The tank was finished off by an infantry teammate with TNT explosives. With a bit more studying of the game, I hope to be able to pick out weak points on tanks. For example, I've worked out that the T-60 has strong frontal armour, but it is much weaker at the sides. In this clip I'm showing you, I then proceeded further and ran into infantry. Normally I'll be loading the HE, but having used the AP rounds on the M3 Stuart, I simply didn't have time to switch shells due to slow reloading. I just proceeded to fire with the 20mm cannon and the machine gun and got further kills mowing down infantry. I think this was a good demonstration of how to use the tank. I have my good moments in it, aside from all the difficult moments playing this game. The tank in real life was used for infantry support and as a scouting vehicle, and I think that is reflected in the game. However, balance-wise, it is not on the same level as the Soviet T-60, which seems to be a strong vehicle at battle rating 1. Okay, this is a quick guide. I'll see you next time.